If I'm going to tell you what the real pros and cons are, then what in the heck are fake pros and cons? Is that even a thing? Kind of. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. I'm going to tell you a lot about Ashland, Oregon, because I'm a local here in Southern Oregon. Maybe you're thinking of moving to Ashland, Oregon. Maybe you're already living in Ashland, Oregon. And you just want to know a little bit more about it. Whatever the case is, this video is meant for you and it is going to help you. So we're going to go ahead and dive right on into the real pros and cons. I'm also going to tell you a fun little story about an experience I had in Ashland that gonna kind of shock you a little bit, probably blow you away. So pro numero uno is the culture, okay? That is, if you go into Ashland and you start asking people about what is their favorite thing about Ashland, you're gonna probably hear first and foremost that is the culture, okay? They're gonna talk to you about the Oregon Shakespeare Festival and how amazing the plays are there. They're gonna talk to you about the Ashland Independent Film Festival and all the cool things that go on there and how that brings in such a cool crowd. They're going to talk about the hippie culture, about the different museums like Science Works and the Schneider Museum of Art. They're going to talk about all that culture, the art galleries around the plaza and all that sort of stuff. And that's something that Ashland is really, really well known for. Okay, there's a lot of different types of people there and a lot of different things that are fun to do there. And that's all part of the cultural experience. And that's something that generally comes with being a college town, and that's what Ashland is, home to Southern Oregon University. So culture is certainly one of the big pros that's known for, or that Ashland's known for, and that you need to be aware of if you're thinking about moving to Ashland. Number 2 pro is the food. Okay, so if you live in Southern Oregon, you probably go to Ashland for a date night or for a good dinner, for company parties, for whatever the deal is, because if you like good food, that's where the good food is in Southern Oregon. It's in Ashland. There's a couple little places outside of Ashland that are pretty good too, but for real, if you want the good stuff, you go to Ashland. One of my favorites is a place called Osteria La Bricola. It's an Italian restaurant. It is spectacular, and it's really, really a popular place, really, really a good place. Also a good one is Moss. It's been super highly rated. I know the New York Times wrote an article about it. I think it was rated one of the top restaurants in the country, if I remember right. But that's the thing, like there are all sorts of different restaurants around Ashland that are absolutely incredible, whether they're fancy like Osteria La Bricola and Moss, or if they're not so fancy like Sandwich, for example, which was featured on the Food Network. Guy Fieri came into town and checked it out on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. But really, you know, spectacular restaurants in Ashland, Oregon, and the nightlife too. I mean, there's a ton of great bars where you can get craft cocktails, or breweries where you can get local beer or ciders or local wines even at tasting rooms. But a lot of that, you know, same kind of mentality exists in Ashland, where on the food scene or bar scene is a lot of the local stuff, right? So local spirits, local wines, local beers, local ingredients. And that's kind of the undertone of Ashland, I would say, is that theme about local sourced ingredients and local, you know, local companies and all those things. It's really one of the things that Ashland's also known for, is just having that pride in the local, you know, community and really like propping up and supporting those products and those companies. Another really nice thing about Ashland is the food co-op, and that's something that I'm gonna lump that into the same food category, but something that a lot of Ashland residents talk about and really, really love is the food co-op in Ashland. It's called the Ashland Co-op. And again, like same story with locally sourced foods from local farms, local cheese makers, local, you know, whatever, all the local stuff is all there. So if you're into that, go check out the Ashland Food Co-op and you will not be disappointed. Pro number 3 is that Ashland is a college town, like I said, home to Southern Oregon University. So in addition to the cultural little boost that gives to the area by bringing in all sorts of people, it also brings in some fun, right? So you have the athletics that go along with that. So Southern Oregon University has a football team, basketball team, softball, I think there's a baseball team, wrestling, there's all sorts of different stuff, and they've done pretty well in the athletics. So that's something that's nice because it brings in opportunities for Ashland residents to go out and support the, you know, the local team and have some pride in the community and all that, and that's pretty cool. Another thing is that it also brings in that younger generation into the community and just kind of further supports, you know, the diverse neighborhood by having, you know, people that are younger age students, for example, all the way up to, you know, retirees, and it really creates this kind of nice diverse mesh of a community in Ashland, which is really, really cool. Another thing that's really cool about that is the campus is absolutely beautiful. So if you ever are in Ashland, you want to go check out, the Southern Oregon University campus, you will enjoy it because it's kept really nicely. There's a lot of beautiful trees and landscaping and all sorts of different stuff. The buildings are pretty. It's really, a nice place to go spend some time. So check that out next time you are in Ashland. Speaking of being in Ashland, the fourth pro is that there's a lot to do. Okay, so if you're just in Ashland and you're like, hey, what the heck can I do out here? You are gonna not have any shortage of options, right? So for example, you could go out to a bunch of different parks, namely Lithia Park, which is the big one. I think it's 80 or 90 acres right in the middle of town. And it is awesome. There's a Japanese garden, there's a creek that runs right through the middle of the park, there's playgrounds, there's big grassy areas to throw a frisbee, there's an amphitheater, there's trails, I can go on, there's a lot of stuff. I actually did a whole video about that in one of my other videos about Ashland, so you'll have to check that one out if you want to learn more about Ashland. But really a really incredible park. Another park you're going to want to check out in Ashland is the Railroad Park. That's a cool one. That's definitely worth seeing. And there's a lot of other cool, fun things to do. Like I mentioned previously, the museums, the Science Works Museum in particular is something that's super fun, especially for the little ones. If you have kids, it's kind of like, if you're familiar at all with OMSI, if you've ever heard of OMSI up in Portland, it's really an interesting place to go see different exhibits and learn. And that's what Science Works is kind of modeled after. It has a lot of those types of interactive exhibits where kids can learn all sorts of really cool stuff about science. So that's definitely a fun one to check out. And another big thing about Ashland is all of the outdoor stuff, right? So all the things to do outside. You'll see tons of people walking their dogs just through town and on the roads and sidewalks and that kind of stuff. But there's also tons of trails. So you could go walking or hiking or biking on all sorts of different trail systems, namely like the mountain biking trails up above that go up towards Mount Ashland. Those are amazing. So you definitely, if you're a mountain biker, you probably already know about those, but if not, you definitely gonna want to check those out because they are pretty spectacular. So check that out. Skiing on Mount Ashland or snowboarding, if you're one of those kinds of people, is also really, really fun and right there outside of town. So probably 20-30 minutes out of Ashland and you can be right up there on the top of Mount Ashland. I'm skiing like I did a couple weekends ago and got some really amazing powder. But those types of days happen up there and you can get some great powder or you can get into some good groomers on other days. But Mount Ashland is a fun thing to do, and there's additional things to do. There's Immigrant Lake, there's all these surrounding vineyards and all those sorts of things. So no matter what it is that you're into, you are going to find plenty of things to do in Ashland. In addition, I didn't even mention it, but all the stuff in town, like the plaza, there's so many things to do there, like the shopping, the different restaurants, the coffee shops, all that. You can spend a day in Ashland and it feel like you were there for 10 minutes. It's crazy. Lots to do there. The fifth and final pro of Ashland is that it is really environmentally friendly. Okay, that's kind of one of the big staples of the community, is that the people in Ashland really, really care about the city, the cleanliness of it, the environmental, sustainability of it, and all that kind of stuff. So what that will look like is you'll find, electric car charging stations. You'll find in the city's vision, statements about being, eco-friendly and gentle on the environment, all those sorts of things. And so it's really, something that I think is a positive, and a lot of the, Ashland residents think is a big positive, is that eco-friendly, environmentally friendly, priority that the city places on the things that they do there. Okay, the buildings that they build, the policies that they have, all those sorts of things keep the environment in mind, and that's something that's pretty cool. Now let's move on to the cons. Okay, and again, I'm still talking about the real stuff. I haven't even gotten to the fake stuff yet, so we're gonna get to that again, so just calm down because we're getting there. Con numero uno is the cost of living. So Ashland is definitely the most expensive part of Southern Oregon. It's kind of like actually Ashland, Jacksonville. They kind of go like this every now and then, but let's call it Ashland the most expensive part of Southern Oregon because it's quite a bit bigger than Jacksonville. But you're going to be looking at an average home price around $600,000. Okay, taxes are more in Ashland. They have like a fast food tax over there. Property taxes are generally higher in Ashland. Things are just more expensive over there, but that's definitely a con for most people. And the second con of Ashland is it's a little bit isolated. Okay, so most of Southern Oregon, like if you're in Medford, let's say, and you want to go to Central Point. It's hard to tell where Central Point starts and Medford stops, okay? But when you go from Medford to Ashland, it's a definite, like, hey, there's some in-between space where it's clearly you're getting into Ashland, right? And so it's not as easy if you're an Ashlander or Ashlandite or whatever you call yourself if you live in Ashland. If you're one of them, you want to run into Medford, it's a thing. Like it's like for me, I live in Rogue River, and if I want to go into Medford, it's a 20-minute drive to get into town. It's like you have to think about it. You have to want to do it. But if you're in Medford and you want to go to Central Point or vice versa, it's like you're just hop in your car, drive down the road, you're there. So Ashland is definitely a little bit isolated. If you want to run to, Costco, it's a little bit more of a drive. If you wanted to, go out to a restaurant and leave all the good restaurants in Ashland and for some reason go to a mediocre restaurant in Medford, you'd have to drive further to do that. But I don't know why you would ever want to do that. And frankly, most of the people in Ashland don't even go to Costco. They typically just go to the food co-op in Ashland. But anyways, if you ever did want to leave Ashland, it is a little bit isolated, which is probably why most of the people don't really leave. It's not just isolated also just location-wise. It's also kind of like isolated in political ways, all those kinds of things. Like Ashland's the liberal hub of Southern Oregon, and the rest of Southern Oregon is very conservative. And so it's kind of like when you go to Ashland, you're visiting like a different area, right? If you're in Medford and you go to Eagle Point, it feels like the same thing. If you're even in Medford and you go to Grants Pass, it feels like the same thing. If you're in Medford and you go to Ashland, it feels like you're in a different area. It feels like you went to Eugene or Portland or Bend. It's like you're visiting somewhere else. For whatever reason, that's how it's always felt to me. Maybe that feels the same to you if you're local watching this. I don't know, maybe chime in the comments down below. But that's something that I've always felt is that you go to Ashland, it feels like you're in an actual different place. Number 3 is the hippies. All right, look, I'm going to call it a con that there's hippies. I actually like the hippies. I don't have any problem with the hippies. The hippies just want to love everybody. It's all cool, peace, and all that cool stuff. It's all good. I don't have any beef with the hippies, okay? But here's the thing, all right? That gets back to the little liberal versus conservative thing that I was talking about. A lot of people will say that the cons of Ashland is that it's kind of more liberal, all right? I don't know whether that's a pro or a con to you, but I know when you talk to other people around Southern Oregon about Ashland, that is something that comes up as a con. Yeah, I love Ashland, I love the restaurants, but there's a lot of hippies there. That's something that comes up a lot. So I'm being honest with you. I'm telling you the good, the bad, the ugly, and that's just one of the things that comes up. That being said, okay, I don't ever see, I've spent time in Ashland pretty frequently. I can't remember the last time I saw a homeless person in Lithia Park. Whereas if you go to other parks around Southern Oregon, like in Medford, you go to Hawthorne Park, full of homeless people, right? You go to Grants Pass and Riverside Park, it's got some homeless people. You go to Ashland, you go to Lithia Park, none. So there may be hippies in Ashland, and hippies are traditionally the most welcoming to homeless people and those sorts of things, but you don't see any homeless people in Ashland for whatever reason. So I don't know. Maybe it's working better for them over there. Con number 4 is the water. All right, now we just need to be honest about this one. The water is terrible in Ashland, okay? And I'm not talking about the city water that you get from your house, that type of water service. What I'm talking about is the healing water, the Lithia Springs water, right? So if you're not familiar with that, you go into downtown Ashland, there's the plaza down there, and there's some water fountains that you'll notice, and there'll be somebody there that'll be like, oh, hey, you're from out of town, you gotta try the water here, it's really, really good. Don't do it, okay? Don't do it. It is disgusting. It tastes like eggs and trash, and it's gross, sour, nasty, bubbly. I can't even tell you, it's the most disgusting thing you'll ever taste. Anyways, don't do it. But there's some people that bottle that stuff up and take it home and drink it. They say that it has healing powers. It has, I don't know what in it, some sort of minerals that's supposed to heal you. I don't know, I'd rather be sick. Honestly, it's because if you drink it, it's gonna make you sick because it's disgusting. So I'm gonna go with the water. It's a big con in Ashland. Healing or not, you can have it. Number 5, last final con before I tell you about the fake cons and what that even means, is the parking, all right? So here's the deal. Ashland parking sucks, all right? If you wanna go downtown and enjoy all those amazing restaurants that are around the plaza, Astoria, Labricola, all the other ones I mentioned, you wanna go down there and have a good old time, go get a caramel apple at the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, go have a cocktail somewhere, maybe a little dessert somewhere else. You want to go do that little Ashland experience. Awesome. Maybe a little stroll around Lithia Park. I don't know. Good luck finding a place to park, all right? Because your walk is going to be through Lithia Park, and it's going to happen because you're going to have to park like a half a mile up the road. up in Lithia Park to even be able to get back down to the plaza to be able to go to those restaurants. So if you want to go to a play at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival or anything like that, like, you've got to be ready to either have somebody drop you off at the door or be ready to do a little bit of hiking, because you're going to be parking a ways away most times. Okay, maybe you're lucky, maybe you're gonna get one of those front row parking spots. That never happens to me when I park my truck down there. And remind me, I'm gonna come back to that, parking my truck down there, because that's my funny little story I've got to tell you here. But the parking in Ashland is not good. It's a definite con, and it's something you need to be aware of if you're going into town. Okay, so if you have a couple vehicles, drive your little smart car to Ashland, leave your big pickup truck at home. I made that mistake, and the reason you want to leave your big pickup truck at home is because the Ashlanders don't like that, all right? And so it's not just that it's hard to park, which it is, but the Ashlanders just do not like your big diesel truck like mine that pollutes the environment and makes them all upset. And so what happened to me when I was in Ashland, I went and met one of my friends from college for lunch, and go out there, park on the street right by the plaza, and go in and have a nice little hamburger for lunch, and come back out, and what do I find is a bunch of trash thrown into the back of my truck, my big diesel polluting pickup truck. There's a bunch of trash in there, and it's vegan tortillas. All right, I mean, come on, really? Like, how's that good for the environment, Ashland, to throw your vegan tortillas in the back of my truck in the litter? So I told you I'd tell you about the fake pros and cons. So what even is a fake pro and con? I told you the real ones. What are the fake ones? All right, so honestly, I don't even know. I don't know what a fake pro and con would be. I think it could be, just the rumors, the hearsay of, oh, Ashland's this or Ashland's that. That's kind of the type of stuff you read in the comments, but that's all the fake stuff, right? Like, that's just kind of the stuff people are mad about today. It's, this policy or this or that, those sorts of things, right? That's the kind of the fake stuff. The real things are what I just told you about. Those are the things that you should be aware of if you're thinking about moving to Ashland, or if you're living in Ashland. Those are the kind of things that you would want to know about, okay? Anyways, I appreciate you watching this video. If you want to know more about Ashland, Oregon, here's a great video right here that you can watch that's going to tell you even more about this awesome city. So check that one out. Reach out to me anytime. I'd love to help you any way I can. Call me, text me. See you on the next video.